Hi, it's Jim Dodson, the Florida Bike Guy. Welcome to our live stream. Today we have a guest with us, Rose Connell from the Villages Insurance Company, and we're going to talk about golf cart policies because I have found in my bike practice that a lot of people don't understand the need for uninsured motorists on their golf cart and why you should consider it. So Rose is our resident expert on golf cart insurance today. And Rose, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, Jim. Thanks for having me. I am Rose Connell, and I am with the Villages Insurance, and excited to talk about golf carts today. We got a lot of them going around.
So you've told me the size. Well, in the world of golf cart insurance, where does your company rank in the nation?
I am proud to say that we write more golf cart insurance policies than any other independent agent in the country.
Okay. So I was questioning Rose about the issue of, what requires someone who owns a golf cart to get it. In order to get your car on the road, you have to take it to the tag office to get a tag, but that doesn't apply if you live in somewhere like the Villages. You can just get a golf cart and start riding it around. And so how many people are riding around with no insurance, and kind of what prompts them to walk in to get coverage on their golf cart?
That's correct. Because it's not mandated, as long as the golf cart's a standard golf cart not going over 20 miles an hour, you are not required to carry insurance on it. And we have a huge stance on trying to educate our residents. And so we have a big outreach program, and I think that brings a lot of clients in for the golf cart insurance with us.
In the bike world, I'm always talking to cyclists about getting uninsured motorists on their auto policy because it covers them when they're on a bicycle as a pedestrian in a friend's car. What are the advantages, Rose, about buying, first off, getting coverage on your golf cart, and secondly, getting uninsured motorist coverage on your golf cart?
Well, thanks for asking. You're protecting yourself, you're protecting the assets that you've worked hard to build up. You take on the same amount of liability exposure stepping into a golf cart as you do your automobile. So it's very important to carry that liability protection, but also to protect yourself against other uninsured motorists. So you've got uninsured motorist coverage that will help provide coverage for any injuries that you sustain if you're injured in an accident where the other party's at fault and they are not insured or not carrying sufficient limits to cover those medical expenses that you may incur.
So covers, if you're in a golf cart and you have uninsured motorist coverage on your golf cart and you're hit by another golf cart with no insurance, are you covered?
Yes, your uninsured motorist coverage would apply for any medical injuries or any injuries you sustain. So it'll cover your medical expenses if you're injured, as you explained, in that situation where the other party's at fault, if it's another golf cart and they don't have insurance and you're injured. Yes, your uninsured motorist coverage would protect you.
What about someone who is injured because the car runs into them and they're in their golf cart and the car doesn't have insurance or has too little insurance?
Yes, sir. If you have uninsured motorist coverage on your golf cart insurance and you're injured, the other party's in an automobile and they're not carrying insurance or not carrying sufficient limits, then yes, your uninsured motorist coverage would protect you.
There may not be data on this. In the bike world, I'm always talking to people about the data, which I'm familiar with, that says about 4 out of 10 cars on the road don't carry BI in Florida. Then you have all the people that carry $10,000 in BI, which isn't going to help the average person in a collision with any injuries at all. How does that work in the golf cart world? Do you have any sense of the number of people, the percentage of carts on the road up there, particularly in the Villages and some of the communities around you, that either, whether they're carrying liability insurance or not?
I don't have any hard data on that, Jim, but I would say that it's not uncommon. We come across those situations all the time where clients are just now coming to us because they're maybe just learning about, the fact that you can carry insurance, or that maybe they've assumed that they've had it because they've had homeowners insurance and they really haven't. So they're just learning and coming to us, and they've been going, maybe for a handful of years now without coverage. So it's definitely not uncommon, and if they have older golf carts, they may not think of it because they're not worried about the value of their own golf cart, which is just one piece of having the insurance. So it's not uncommon, but unfortunately I don't have data to say how many, uninsured golf carts we might have on the roads, on the golf cart paths.
I think a lot of people are price conscious. They think that they don't need I find a lot of people don't understand the value of until they get in their first collision and they're hit by somebody who doesn't have insurance or has too little insurance. And it's like, wow, wish I had
Yeah.
Give us an idea of what it costs, Rose, to insure your golf cart for what you would consider full adequate coverage to ride around.
Yeah, and I can absolutely do that, and I agree. I think people are, very price conscious of it, and but not realizing that golf cart insurance is very reasonably priced, and when we are selling a golf cart insurance policy, we're recommending you to carry liability, bodily injury liability, property damage, uninsured motorist coverage, matching your liability limits of at least 100, 300, more often 250,000 per person, 500,000 per accident.
Right.
We include a supplement medical payment as well as physical damage for the golf cart, and you can see those premiums ranging from $80 to $250, and that's for the year.
Sounds pretty reasonable. I mean, sounds pretty
Definitely.
nominal, really. Um, so I think one of the big misunderstandings people have is whether a golf cart can be covered on their auto policy. Can it?
So that's a great question. It's not just one solid answer for that. We actually do have insurance companies that will allow you to insure your standard golf cart on your auto policy, but you have to specifically list it. You will not get any coverage automatically from that policy. It's the same thing from the home. You will not get coverage automatically from your home policy when you're in a golf cart unless you are on the golf course. So you can specifically list it on some automobile policies, but generally you would want to carry a standalone golf cart insurance policy on a product that's designed for that type of risk and exposure.
Right, because if you list it on your auto policy, they're going to charge you another premium for it anyway. And if you try to get it covered on your homeowners, they're going to rate you on your homeowners policy anyway. So the advantages you're saying are to get a standalone policy that's specifically designed for a golf cart.
Yeah, exactly. You actually have more coverage options. That's typically, you're going to get the uninsured motorist coverage and medical payments that way. You may not have that available. You may only have it on the auto policy, but not on the homeowner's policy. And the liability limits, again, on a homeowner's policy, it may be limited as to what you're able to secure for that golf cart. So
Right.
it's definitely a broader coverage when you have it on a standalone policy, and premium, as I mentioned, is very competitive and keeps the claims, separate as well.
I think what you have said, which struck me, which I think many people probably would not understand intuitively, is your golf cart, if it's on your homeowner's policy, that's what you're relying on, only covers you on your golf cart, on your golf course. And if you live in any of these communities where you're driving miles to and from the golf course and to entertainment and to recreation and to shopping, you got a lot of places where you're not covered at all.
That's right.
Yeah. What about people who, you have friends in town, or you go up somewhere for the season, you want to rent your house out, the golf cart is there. What about letting people use it, letting tenants use it, letting people borrow it? What issues do people run into there?
That's a great question, and I do want to first say that you would always want to check with your insurance provider and make sure that you would have coverage extending to someone that you allow to use your golf cart. But most importantly, I want to point out that you can be held liable for any injuries or damage that that person operating your golf cart causes. So it's a liability exposure to you, and you just have to understand that you're assuming that liability and make sure that you do have proper coverage in place.
Well, a lot of people fail to understand that the owner of a vehicle like a golf cart is liable for what is done by someone who uses it with your permission,
Right. I agree.
And how about letting your grandkids ride the cart because it's fun and cool and cute, and they back over somebody, or they...
Yeah, you got to remember that they don't have the same experience, as you do. And again, when you're getting in that golf cart and operating it, it's a liability exposure that's very, very similar to that you take on when you get in an automobile.
So what about the situation, Rose, where we see in our practice a lot of situations where the passenger in the golf cart is ejected when the driver turns left or turns right, depending on where the passenger's seated. They're unprepared for the turn, and they're not wearing a seatbelt, of course, because many of them don't have seatbelts. And the passenger gets ejected. And the owner's liable for that situation. In some cases, you can prove negligence. what kind of coverage protects the owner in that situation?
Yeah, unfortunately, I have to agree with you. It does happen. It's not uncommon. And depending on the policy, but most of them will extend passenger liability. It's an extension of the bodily injury liability. So oftentimes you will have coverage, the owner and driver would have coverage under the liability portion of the policy. That can vary, depending on the insurance company, but that coverage is available. It's out there.
Okay. So let me see here. I think we've talked about, the only other thing that we talked about previously was in the umbrella situation with an umbrella policy. I think there's a lot of confusion by people on when and why they should consider getting an umbrella policy. What function does it play?
Yeah, and I agree with you, and I would say that it's important to carry insurance liability limits in an amount that equal or exceed your net worth, and we would always recommend our clients to talk to their, to a financial professional about that. But the umbrella policy allows you to secure the adequate amount of coverage, because when you carry liability insurance from your homeowners policy, your automobile policy, your golf cart insurance policy, RV, boat, etc., anything that you have that underlying liability exposure on that you could insure, the umbrella provides limits that will kick in after you've exhausted the limits on those underlying insurance policies. So the umbrella is a way to make sure you're carrying the adequate amount of liability.
Yeah, and probably one of the most common coverages, let's say you have 250 liability on your automobile, your homeowners, your golf cart, and you want $1 million in protection. So you buy an umbrella coverage, which protects that spread between the 250 you own and the $1 million you seek to have. And so give us some idea what it costs to have an umbrella.
It does depend on the limit of coverage that you have and what your underlying exposures are. How many homes do you have? How many automobiles, golf carts, etc. Because all of those are factors in the umbrella rate, as well as the limit of coverage that you're purchasing, and whether you want to add the additional excess uninsured motorist coverage that's also available on an umbrella. But I would say, minimum in my area I can speak to, you could be looking at anywhere from $200 to $500 a year. It just depends on the amount of coverage.
Again, in the world of insurance, pretty nominal. I would
absolutely
say the protection you're getting and the peace of mind. There's so many ways that mischief occurs in our lives with all of these devices and mechanical devices we have running around. You just can't predict and think about in advance all the ways you can be exposed to the unusual happening.
Exactly.
So everybody who walks into my office has been injured in some unusual way, that they really never expected. But it occurs, and it occurs frequently.
I agree with you. Some
right.
Scary stories out there.
So do you have any final words of advice for anybody who's, they're new to Florida, going to get a golf cart, wondering what to do about the insurance issue? I know the major, State Farm, Allstate, those are usually you have to be a brand or a captive agent for them, but you carry a lot of other lines that are not the State Farm.
Yeah, we do, Jim. Thanks for asking. Being an independent agent, it gives us the availability to have a broad market to look at for insurance options. So we have several insurance company partners that offer golf cart insurance, and I definitely strongly encourage anyone that owns a golf cart to just give us a call or give their local insurance agent a call and talk about the options.
Where are you located, Rose?
We are in the villages, and we have 8 offices, actually. They are spread throughout the villages and all golf cart accessible.
And where are the neighboring communities that you typically serve that are golf cart related?
So we've got all of the villages, and we've got a couple of communities right outside the villages, like Del Webb, Spruce Creek. We actually have On Top of the World from Ocala as well, and those are probably the biggest ones I can think of in our area that would have golf carts as well.
Well, Rose, you've been a great interview today, and I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. I know there are a lot of people that needed their questions answered about golf cart insurance. It's been helpful to me.
My pleasure, Jim. Always happy to take up an opportunity to help educate.
So I'm the Florida Bike Guy. We represent cyclists, whether you've been injured on the bike or off the bike around the state. If you need me, call me. I'll be there for you. You have a great day and be safe, and get your golf cart policy. Take care. Goodbye, Rose. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it.